Video bites from ulearn.photography. Here's our principal, Simon Q. Walden.
Hi, and on today's video bite, I got an email coming from Janet who says, I take too many pictures and I can't throw them away. How do I handle this? How do I live? She has my sympathies. I have the same problem. How do I get rid of my babies? So I'm possibly the worst person to ask, but I'll tell you how my process works. First thing I do is I take all the original files and I'll skim through them in blocks of 6. I wrote a little bit of software that does it for me. Why blocks of 6? Because thumbnails on screen are too small. I find I can't really see enough clearly about what's going on. One image at a time you can't compare to the previous or next image. 6 images is about the right kind of number for a reasonable size on screen, but lets me compare to 3 or 4 images in a sequence. And what I'll do is go through them very quickly and I'll just say yes, no, yes, no, yes, yes, no, 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 yes, yes, no, yes, no. And if I'm in doubt, I'll throw in more yeses than nos. And then I'll go through them one more time, and this time I'm looking at sets where basically I've got 2 or 3 images of the same thing. All are equally good. It's just a question of which one is equally better than the other equally good shots. And usually I've got them down to about a quarter of the image that I've shot at that point. Then I find, for me, it's usually better and quicker to run through my standard cleanup process, and then I start doing any Photoshop cleanup work, spot removal, stuff like that. And as I'm going through them at that time, I'll also throw away a few more, probably another sort of 10%. Because when you see them full screen or in detail, you realise maybe there's a technical issue, like it's not quite sharp enough, that isn't obvious on a small picture, but more usually it's something in the expression, and usually something in the eyes that just doesn't really zing in that picture. And so, I don't know, let's take a standard 1-hour studio shoot. I might have a couple of 100 pictures. By the time I've done the first curl, I'm down to about 30, maybe a bit more, maybe 40. By the time I've done photoshopping them, I'll be down to sort of 20, maybe 30. The strange thing is, when I look at them en masse, I find it very hard to work out which ones to take out. And particularly when I'm shooting for a client, I often feel that the client might choose pictures that I wouldn't choose, and vice versa. There are pictures that I think are photographically great, but may not appeal to the client's sense of aesthetic. So I tend to deliver more in those cases. But the curious thing is I can then look at that set of 30 and I say, yes, that one, and that one are my favourites and keepers. I can do that really quickly. It's really obvious which ones I actually want to keep, and the other 30 I might as well not bother with. So I am the worst person to ask. I keep far too many pictures. Anybody who's had a model portfolio shoot with me knows that I will send them, God, 100 pictures or something, when really I could send them 6 and that would be fine. It's hard to do. I just want to kind of sidetrack though and talk about the pictures that you're not keeping. And I ignore the ones where there's just some really straightforward failure, the flash didn't fire or something like that. As photographers, I think we're really bad at looking at our failures. We'll pick out our 5 stars really easily and quickly, but we never look at our 0 stars and say, why didn't this work? What could I learn technically to avoid this mistake again? Or what can I learn aesthetically to make this picture work? But we're not very good at doing that, and I would encourage photographers to go back and look at their rejects just as much as their successes, because you learn more from your mistakes, and that is the definition of a master. A master is somebody who's made 10,000 mistakes.
Subscribe now for regular tips and updates. To find out more, go to ulearn.photography.